Welcome to the Millionaire Race podcast, where we are empowering you to better your financial standing in order to maximize your potential and collectively solve many of the socio-economic problems that face the African American demographic today. My name is Toxio Gunyemi, your host for the podcast, and I'm really happy to have you with us. As always, please make sure you listen to episode 1 of this podcast series. It has the foundation that gives a clear understanding of the entire series, and that's why it's important to listen to that one. Of course, subscribe and share this with other family and friends so that we can get the message out to everyone. I am a finance guy. Yeah, that's why I have a degree in finance, and I love numbers primarily because they tell a story. You know, that's correct numbers, that is, of course. No matter what you say, what you see, the numbers always tell the real story. And that's why, again, in episode 1, shared a lot of numbers there, and we'll continually share numbers throughout the show. I took some time this past week to do a little bit of research and just typed in some numbers, as I like to do from time to time. And in this case, I just typed in, what is the demographic with the fewest business owners? The answer came up, African Americans. I said, all right, so I typed in, what's the demographic with the lowest home ownership rates? Black households. That's what popped up. What is the demographic with the highest rate of homelessness? Well, obviously, if we have the lowest home ownership rate, it's not surprising that the answer that popped up again was Black Americans. What is the demographic with the highest incarceration rate? Again, these are numbers that you know. The Black demographic. I just typed in one more. What's the least educated demographic? At least this time we share the spot, but we are at the bottom. It's the Black and Hispanic population. So the question is, why are African Americans at the bottom of these and many other categories? What is wrong with the African American race? Well, the answer is absolutely nothing. There is nothing wrong with the African American race. African Americans are a beautiful, resilient, intelligent, extremely talented, and resourceful people. And then why are they struggling, you ask? Well, when you take a people, strip them of everything they have, physically and emotionally, then tell them they're free to go out and form a nation. But you send them out with nothing. These are the results that you get. Take any other demographic and do the exact same thing to them, and you will get the same results. I mean, a story that comes to mind, we all know the story in the Bible about Exodus and the Israelites coming out of Egypt after being slaves for so many years. What was one of the key things that happened just before they left? They were told to go to their neighbors and ask for their gold and their silver and their precious stones and jewels. And the Egyptians, who were so anxious for the Israelites to get out of there, gave them everything they had, so that by the time the Israelites were leaving, they were wealthy. That's how you form a nation. That's how a people can recover from what was done to them. Now, unfortunately, the African American population did not get this luxury. Now, a lot has happened over time, and now we are in a position where we can actually come together and make a difference. That's why I push for us to attain that net worth of $1 million each. We need finances in the community which will fix a lot of the problems that we have. Won't fix all of them, but a lot of these things when it comes to home ownership rates, ability to open up businesses, incarcerations, which of course a lot of that is caused by poverty and inability to navigate the legal systems properly. If there's more money in the system, our system, then these problems will be lessened to a great extent. We won't find the African American demographic listed at the bottom of all these categories that we mentioned. And so that's my push. That's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to work towards Each and every household, African American household, attaining a net worth of at least $1 million. How are we doing that? Well, by learning from those who have done it already and having them come on the show, talk to us, teach us how it's done, and pass on that knowledge to us. But of course, there are some practical steps that we have to take as well. Now, last week, we had a great interview with Jerome. And according to the statistics, a lot of you liked that interview because so many people have gone to listen to it. That's great. We're going to have a lot more people come on who will share their experiences and encourage us as to how to achieve this as well. But today, I wanted to just take a little detour to make sure that we are all on the same page. No matter what level you're on, when you're listening to this podcast, there are some things that we can start doing right away, while at the same time planning for things to do in the future. But as you listen to these different interviews, there are action steps that you can be taking right away to start yourself on your race. We're all at a different point in this race, but again, that's great. We're not running against each other. Each person is running their own individual race. So I just wanted to break out a few pointers for each and every one of us today. The first thing you have to do is you have to know where you are. And to do that, you need to know your net worth. That's going to be our badge for this race. It's your net worth. You need to know how much you're worth. And we talked about that before, but I'll mention it again. Your net worth is simply taking everything you own and subtracting everything you owe, and whatever is left over is your net worth. It's as simple as that. Take a little piece of paper, add up everything you own, subtract everything you owe, any debts to any mortgages, any debts toward car loans or student loans, whatever it is. Subtract that, and what you have is your net worth. That's the number that we're trying to get, or we're going to get, to $1 million. When you add up that number, you may be at $50,000, $100,000, $500,000. You might be at minus $50,000, minus $100,000. That's okay, because the important thing is, in order to be able to fix a problem, you have to know what that problem is. So whatever that number is, be confident in this. It's going to be more tomorrow. So if you're at 10,000 tomorrow, it's going to be better. It's going to be 20. We're going to work towards making that number 20, 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth. If you're at a negative, minus, then we're going to reduce that deficit, and then you're going to get into the positive and everyone is running their race. You have to know your net worth. Everyone you listen to, all the people that are going to come on this show, they all know their net worth. So in order to be like them, we have to do what they do. So that's the first thing that we all need to do. And it's not just a one-time thing. You need to know that at each point in time, what's my net worth? Because you want to see that rising. The second thing is to know what your financial needs are and where your money is going. And that is simply done with a budget. Now, many people don't like hearing the word budget. It gives off the wrong connotation sometimes. But really, a budget is just simply writing down what the numbers are for what you need and what's coming in and where you're actually spending your money. That's really what it is. A budget is in your control. So a budget actually really, really helps you. So don't be averse to the word. There are some people who have very, very complex budgets, and maybe that's why sometimes it throws people off. But a budget can be very simple. It can be as simple as just 8 or 9 or 10 lines on a piece of paper. In fact, that's what I recommend that you do. No, don't go into anything complex, but you need to know what your needs are. So, and you have to have an idea that you're able to cover those needs. So a budget is just simply just on a piece of paper. You just write down, what your rent or your mortgage is, how much you need for food, how much you need for your utilities, anything for the kids, gas, whatever it is that you feel that you need. Just write down those items and then put a dollar amount of what you think or know those items will cost you every month. And when you add that up at the bottom, is your income enough to cover all that stuff, leaving you with some extra? Or are you short? That's also part of knowing where you are. Does your income cover your current needs? Hopefully it does. Maybe you need to make some adjustments. Because one thing, as you will learn going forward, it's not enough to have $1 million. You have to be able to keep and grow your $1 million. In order to do that, you have to know where your money is going. I spoke to someone recently who told me that, hey, Toxie, I had $1 million. I don't want that to happen to anybody else at all. When you have $1 million, we have to be able to grow that $1 million. Yeah, different things happen, I understand. But we want to be able to manage our money. So you need to have a budget. And again, as you listen to all the people who come and are interviewed here, you will find they all know where their money is going. In some shape or form, they have a budget. For some, it's simple. A simple Excel spreadsheet or just writing it on a piece of paper. For some, it's really complex, but everybody has an idea of how much they need and where their money is going. Coupled with that is many of us have never learned how to handle finances. We didn't learn that from our parents. We just kind of mimicked what they did or what people around us did. I'm an example of that. I didn't learn anything specific towards financing from my parents. I just watched what they did and I mimicked some of them. Some of the things they did correctly, some they didn't. But when I got here to understand the system, I knew I had to learn. And what did I do? I went to several different types of financial classes. And I highly recommend that you do. Even if you feel you know how to handle money, then that's fine, because you'll get there and there'll be some things that you already know and do. But I guarantee you that you'll learn something else that will help you. But it is crucial that you have some sort of financial understanding by taking a class. Now, there are classes all over the place. Churches offer financial classes all the time. There are many different programs. I'm not going to recommend any particular one. Go for anyone. Okay? Go and get and learn about finances. Go for more than one. These are not expensive and they teach you all the basics about budgeting, how to do a simple one, a complex one, and how to reconcile your budget and all that kind of stuff. But you need to understand financial terms, compounding interest, all that stuff. Now, we will talk about those on the show, but we won't have enough time to go into all those things fully in depth as you would need to learn all this. So just go and take a financial course. You need to take a financial course. It's almost, I would say it's required. Okay. All the people that you're going to hear on the show, they know about finances one way or the other. That's how you're able to attain and win that millionaire race. And not only that, but keep the funds and grow the funds. You have to understand how finance works. So please take a financial course. And that leads us into the third item, which is get educated. Taking a financial course is increasing your education. We need to keep learning about finances and about other things as well. Recognize this, that you are paid for what you know. At your job, you are paid for the amount of knowledge you have on that particular subject. At least that's what should happen, right? When you go to work, they're paying you for fixing a problem that somebody else can't fix, or you can fix it better than that person. The value of your time is based off of what you know. So if you want the value that they place on your time to increase, you have to increase your knowledge. And education is the way that you do that. Whether it's formal or informal education, that's how you increase the value of your time to get a better job. So yes, I talked about education in terms of getting a financial course and understanding that, but then for your job, if you have done your budget and you find that you need a better job, well, then you have to increase the knowledge that you have so that your time is more valuable and somebody will pay you more for that time. So education is important. And again, you will hear from most of the people on the interview how important education is. Now, that's depending on what level you're on. I would say education is crucial for the African American society as a whole. I gave you one of the statistics that said that the least educated demographic is the Black and Hispanic demographic. So it ties in with the fact that the demographic with the highest amount of wealth in this country is also the highest educated demographic. All the statistics show, again, back to the numbers, because the numbers tell the truth, right? Correct numbers. All the statistics show that with a college degree, you earn over $1.2 million more than somebody without a college degree in your lifetime. Now that statistic doesn't break it down by race. See, I'm still looking for one of those and I may find it. But anytime I find a statistic that's talking about college degrees and wealth, having it or not having it, doesn't really break out the African American experience, because I am sure that without a college degree, an African American is really in a worse off position than somebody of a different race. One of the things I hear is that you don't need a college degree to make it. And I hear examples, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. I hear all these names of people who did not go to college and are super, super wealthy. Well, you have to listen to the whole story. I mean, if you use the example of Bill Gates, if you've read the book Outliers, which is an awesome book, I recommend you get out and read it. It's by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about Bill Gates. And he talks about the fact that when Bill Gates was younger, his mother worked at a university, which gave him access to their computer room. And in those days, one computer kind of filled the whole room because computers were new. So he had the luxury, because of his mom, to be able to go in and learn about computers. He used to program and play with that stuff all night long. So that by the time he got into school, he had done more with computers than the people who were teaching him. So of course, in that case, I mean, if you know more than your professor, it's kind of obvious that they can't teach you anything. You should be teaching them. That's why he left. You look at Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs was fortunate enough to have, he started off at college. He took some courses that he liked himself, writing and different things that he just wanted to do. But then he was able to leave and wander around the world, wander across Asia and everything. And still, when he came back to loving parents who had the resources to take care of him, take him back into the house. And he was able to come up with his business from there. See, those experiences are not really the African American experience. We shouldn't look at those kind of examples. Education is crucial for any society to improve itself. And the way to do that is to make it a priority from when you're young. I mean, throughout your life, you should always continually get educated. I still do. But you have to make it a point of duty to prioritize and say, hey, education is going to be important in this family. You let your children know that education, a college degree, is important in this family. Yes, you want to do this after your college degree or what, you're free to do whatever you want. Going to college is hard. I've been to college in different countries and it's hard in both places because it's the same thing. When you are learning all this stuff and expanding yourself, it's not easy. That's why it's better to do it when you are young, right? When you're young and you have, or you're supposed to have, fewer responsibilities, it's easier to knock it out. And then, of course, if you want to add additional education from that point on, you do that at your own choice. But I can understand, because I mentioned something there where I said where you should have fewer responsibilities. But if you don't have any money and you're worried about how you're going to pay for college, that makes it tough. If you don't have any money and your family needs money and you're being offered a job that doesn't require a college degree where you can start making some money right now, it's hard not to take that job in order to fend for yourself and for your family. So that's the cycle that continues to go round and round that keeps the poverty going round and round. But as we change this, as we are increasing our financial standing, making education a priority. And when I say education, I mean all the way to having college degrees, is crucial towards maintaining and sustaining the millionaire race. We'll talk about that more in detail, but whatever level you're at now, education will help make it better. Learning more about what you're doing right now, being better at what you are doing right now will make your time more valuable, so you'll get paid more. Learning an additional skill will do the same thing. For our kids, letting them know from an early age that, hey, college is not an option, it's an absolute must. Let's try to get rid of that saying of, I am the first to graduate from my family. Let's get rid of that. Let it be, oh, I come from a line of graduates. So just a quick recap. We know what our net worth is. We have a good idea of our finances, whatever they are. We can start to piece together what we need. You've taken a financial class, how we can make our financial situation a little bit better. You're working on education, educating yourself, learning, taking some courses here or there, instilling in our children that, hey, we need some degrees. Some of us can get degrees at this point in time because you are looking after your family. There's no time to do that and stuff. I understand. But it's just something to keep in mind. Continuously learning, because that's what we need to do. We need more doctors. We need more lawyers. We need more business owners. Just being a business owner doesn't mean you don't have any education, of course, right? Every business owner has to know how to handle finances and how to read financial statements and things like that. That's all the education I'm talking about. Once we're doing all that stuff, in order to operate in this system, we have to have good credit. What is having good credit? Credit, the financial system here uses credit to know if a person is worth the risk of loaning money to them. It's not a perfect system, but it's man's, or here in the US, our best system of knowing if a person is creditworthy. If I lend this person money, what is the likelihood of him paying me back? That is done. They have their calculations on how to report that. It's based off of history from you having borrowed money from other people and what is your history of paying those people back. If you pay those people back on time as promised, then you have a score, a good high score. If you don't, then you have a low score, so that the next person thinks twice before lending you money. So it's crucial, whether you're trying to get a loan for a business, a car, whatever, a house especially. Having good credit is crucial to being able to access money in the simplest and least expensive way. As I mentioned before, I am the president of a mortgage company. Every day we look at people's credit reports because that's one of the major requirements for getting a loan. I have to say, I see reports from different demographics, and most of the time, there are other demographics where, and I won't mention them, but their credit reports are almost always stellar. There's a particular demographic in mind when I say that, where their credit reports are always the highest that you've seen. And that's all of them. So obviously, they all understand the importance of that. But for most of my brothers and sisters, our credit reports are low. Not very good. Not all, but most. That's something that we need to change. Now, eventually, we won't need a credit report when you have enough money to do whatever you want to do without borrowing it. Your scores are obviously going to disappear at that point in time. But until then, you need to have or give yourself a chance at accessing programs, funds, loans in order to buy a house, to run your business, buy investment properties, get good insurance because they're beginning to use your credit score for that now. You need to have that. So the credit report is in your power, right? It's based off of who you borrowed money from and how you paid them back. It's all in your hands to make it good. It's quite simply that. If you borrow money from anyone, make sure you pay them back on time the way you agreed. And if anything happens where there's a conflict with that, you need to resolve it quickly. I can't tell you how many credit reports I've seen where, I'll give you a very popular one is you left an apartment complex and there was an argument with something that they said you should pay for and you felt you didn't need to pay for it and you just left. Well, what happens is they try to resolve that, and if they can't find you, then they put it as a collection on your credit report, which brings down your score. So make sure that if there's anyone that has any dispute or anything that you have financially, you have to resolve it before it gets to your credit report. It's very hard to get it off once it's on there. So take your credit report seriously. First, know who you're borrowing money from. If you need that, you don't really, hopefully, as time goes on and we talk about these things, you'll find that you don't need to borrow as much money apart from the major items like your house, and maybe you have some student loans and things like that. But if you do have any loans out there, or you have any financial dispute with anyone, especially medical bills, don't just say, oh, the insurance is supposed to take care of it. You need to be on top of that. Otherwise, it gets to your credit and brings your credit down. With a good credit score, you're able to access the best mortgage loans, the different types, to get the best interest rates. If there are any programs out there, you'll be able to qualify for them. And if you remember from episode 1, home ownership is the second place where the most wealth of this nation is kept. Buying a house is important. Having good credit is really important to doing that. All the folks that we interview on this show, you will find that they have good credit because they need that in order to be able to do all the things that they do. So you can start doing that now. It's quite simple. It's not something you have to wait on. Pay your bills on time. Reduce the number of cards that you have if you can. Again, you will learn all these things if you take that financial course. So please make sure you take a financial course. And then once you're doing this, as you're listening, these are things for the future. You need to be thinking about investing. There's something called compounding interest, which is quite simply, if you invest a little bit of money today, it grows with a little bit of interest, so that by the time a year rolls around, you're investing more. So an example, if you invest $100 at 10% interest, in a year from now, it will become 110. If you add another $100 to that, you're not just investing $200, you're now investing 210. And that's how it continues to multiply. That's how the wealthiest grow their money in this nation. As I mentioned in the previous podcast, if you invested just $200 a month for 30 years, you'd have over $400,000. If you invested it for 40 years, you'd have over $1 million. I mean, if there's any 20-year-old listening to this right now, just by simply doing that, you'd be a millionaire by the time you're 60. Now, of course, you can invest more than that or less than that, as long as you're doing something. So we'll work towards that. But I wanted to bring that to your attention because, again, as you're listening to the interviews, you will find that these are things that they are doing. Owning your own home, that is very important. Not everyone is able to be in a position to do that right now, but if you are following the steps of what we've talked about, you will be able to get there. Getting your credit in order, having a budget, all those things work towards getting a home. That is one of the investment tools that will help you with winning the Millionaire Race. I'd like to tell you a little story, a true story about my good friend Jimmy. Jimmy lived right across from my home. When we moved in there, we noticed this neighbor who would leave at the early hours of the morning, both he and his wife, and come back late at night. We hardly ever got a chance to see them. Well, one day, Jimmy's wife's car had an issue. So I went out and I helped her and got a chance to introduce myself as the neighbors who had been here for a few months but had never met him, and invited them to dinner. They came, and that's how I was able to meet Jimmy. Awesome guy. We talked and found that both of them were very busy. Jimmy worked as a fireman. He and his wife had many, many side businesses that they were doing. One of them was real estate. He understood the power of real estate. And I love to fly. I have a pilot's license, but I didn't at the time. In fact, Jimmy was one of the ones that inspired me to get one because in talking, he had one. And he asked if we'd like to go flying. And I said, of course. Do we rent a plane or how do we make this happen? And he was like, nah, it's mine. So I was like, wow. All right. So we went up, flew us to an airport in Carrollton. And when we landed over there, so we're taxiing around, Jimmy looks out of the window, he points at a multi-engine plane and says, hey, that's my plane over there too. And you're looking, I'm like, looking at Jimmy, you would never imagine that he had all this wealth that he did, because it's possible. As I got to know him, he would share with me how he got into real estate, just buying one house and fix it up. Not an expensive house, a small house, then buy another, and just take your time and buy another, take your time and buy another. And that's how he just continued to grow. He had lots of other smaller businesses on the side, and he just worked diligently at them and was doing very well. You'd have been proud to have known him. Unfortunately, my good friend Jimmy is no longer with us. But while he was here, he ran that race and he won that race. And he left for his family so that now his daughter is pursuing her dreams at a university of her choice and doing very well. That's what I want for all of us, because we can do it. So today was a quick one just to make sure that we're all on the same page, knowing what our net worth is, knowing what our financial needs are, going for financial courses, getting educated. And then for the future also, making sure our credit is right, planning for investing, knowing that we're going to own our own property, maybe properties like Jimmy. That'd be great. But I couldn't end this without talking about my faith. My faith and knowing the Lord Jesus Christ is important to everything I've been able to accomplish. My life, my wife, my kids, and ultimately into this assignment of speaking to you through this podcast in order to change America for all of us. I would encourage you as you run your millionaire race to make sure that you let the Lord be a big part of that so that he can steer you and guide you right. The millionaire race is just one race in the race of life. Having God run with you is how to win that one. My name is Toxio Gunyemi. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.